So I quit. I was making $130,000, had just finished my MBA, and was starting to see jobs that would pay up to $180,000. A few years ago, if you told me this, I would have thought I was on my way to making it. But in the 5 years I worked, I started to realize I was actually heading down a path that the further I went down, the less happy I'd be and the less chance I'd be able to escape. I realized I was playing this weird game where I was trying to convince a group of strangers that I was passionate about big faceless companies and trying to prove my value so that I could get paid more. I was stuck in this miserable cycle of work, sleep, and repeat. And this is when I realized that the game I was playing was broken. So if you're thinking about quitting, I want to share with you the 4 defining moments that gave me the courage to quit and that I hope will do the same for you. And I also want to show you that there is light at the end of the tunnel, that you can find exactly what you're looking for. I want to start with this sense of security we think these jobs give us. When I got my first corporate job, I was excited. I had a secure career path and was told that I could get promoted in 3 years. I thought the harder I worked, the more potential I showed, that the better my life would get. And so I dedicated myself. Sometimes I'd work till 3 in the morning, I'd take on responsibilities of senior colleagues, I worked overtime because we were understaffed, and I even started a corporate volunteering group. But instead of my life getting better, it got worse. I gained 10 kilos from all the stress, I stopped hanging out with my friends and family, and there were months where I was just so stressed that I couldn't enjoy time with my then girlfriend. And you know what? For some reason, I thought that it'd all pay off, that the money would somehow be worth it. Well, 3 years passed and you know what they say? Someone a few steps up the chain decided I wasn't going to get promoted because times were hard. Here I was sacrificing my personal life, and yet someone who I'd never met before was deciding whether I get paid an extra $10,000 a year, because apparently they get to decide what my life's worth. This really broke me. But worst of all, I couldn't do anything about it. This made me realize that no matter how hard I worked, no matter what sacrifices I make, as long as I relied on someone else for money, someone else would always be in control. Someone else would always have the final say of what my life's worth, and because of that, they'd also get the final say in how I live my life. Over the time I spend with my friends and family, over my mental and physical health, and over the time I get to do what I truly want. And this drilled home when I started to look at people who made it to the top, board members and executives. I saw them waking up at 4 AM to get on work calls, sending emails at midnight, and having to spend time with their kids through the phone. I realized they were paying an even higher price. And so I saw the path laid out before me. I'd either have a low income and never afford my freedom, or I could spend my entire career working to the top to earn more money, but still never get the freedom to spend it. It's a double-sided trap. And this is where my first realization came, that in chasing this feeling of security, I'd be giving up the only opportunity to live the life I want to live. I'd be secure, but not in the things I truly care about. And so if I ever wanted to get paid what I'm worth and to have true freedom, I needed to find my own path before it got too late. But even after realizing this, I was still too scared to make a move. That was until I met a colleague of mine who we'll call Dan. Dan was an older guy, roughly in his 70s. It's so funny because he was that old that every day around 3 PM you'd hear him snoring through his afternoon nap. Anyway, Dan spent 30 years at the company. He was loyal, worked late, and he climbed the ranks to become a senior manager. And now, he was waiting so he could retire. Fast forward a year later, I lost contact with Dan, but one morning a colleague came in and shared that after all these years, Dan had finally retired. But it wasn't all good news. When Dan retired, he flew back to his home country with his wife to start his long-deserved break. And unfortunately, that's when Dan passed away. He didn't even get to start his retirement. This was saddening news, but what really shocked me was this weird feeling like nothing happened. Here we have this man who dedicated a third of his life to the company, spending all his energy to figure out how to make the company more money, and it was like he never even existed. And this is when I had my second realization, that no matter how hard we work, no matter what sacrifices we make or how senior we get, the second we can't give our time, they'll forget us and find a replacement. And so I realized that even though I was trading away my life, it'd be for nothing. My health, my dreams, my freedom, it'd all be given to this big faceless company that wouldn't care if I dropped dead tomorrow. It made me realize that the only chance I have to live the life I want to live was currently going to waste for nothing. And this is when a scary question ran through my mind. Would I be happy looking back in 40 years knowing I spent my entire life chained to a desk, whilst I saw other people doing what they love? I knew I needed to find something more meaningful to work towards. And this is where everything began to change. See, I'd always questioned whether work was something that I'd ever be passionate about, whether I could actually walk into an office and be excited to work, because it seemed like every job would eventually become boring. But one day I was watching this YouTuber and he was talking about how YouTube would be a great way to make a living. So I decided, why not? I remember it was a long weekend and I ended up working on the video 3 days straight for 12 hours a day. It was probably the most work I'd ever done in 3 days, and not for one moment did I feel tired or want to stop working. In fact, I woke up every morning excited to work on the video and actually had to stop myself or I wouldn't go to sleep. But then something even crazier happened. I posted the video and naturally it didn't get many views, but what I got were my first handful of comments. And let me tell you, I felt a crazy high of emotion. It was 3 times better than anything I'd felt before. More exciting than going on holiday, going out on dates or partying. And it was so intense and fulfilling that I knew that 99% of people probably haven't felt this. I realized I had just found my passion, to share knowledge and help people build the life they want to live. And I knew right then I was going to quit. And this is when I had my third realization. Every day that we drag ourselves to work, it's not because we don't like working, it's because we're not working on the right thing. Because when we work on something we're truly passionate about, work truly doesn't feel like work. It feels effortless and fulfilling. And so I want you to know that work doesn't have to be this thing that you tolerate. There's no need for Monday blues or thank God it's Friday. You just need to find work you're passionate about. But even after this big realization, there was one last thing that held me back, and that was fear. I had spent all these years working myself up from minimum wage to having a secure 6-figure career. The thought of leaving that behind scared the hell out of me. I didn't know if this was going to work out or whether I could ever recover if I failed. But all these concerns started to go away when I started to think about the bigger picture. There's a quote from Steve Jobs that sums this up really well. Remembering that you're going to die is the best way to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You are already naked. There is no reason not to follow your heart. So yes, I am giving up a secure job, but when I consider my entire life, I'm not giving much up at all. If I fail, maybe I'll lose 1 to 2 years worth of income, but I already know that money is never going to change my life. And the fact is, there will always be some type of job I can find if things don't work out. I can always go back to living the life I was living, but I already know that's something I didn't want anyway. But what won't ever come back is this opportunity I have right now to create a different life for myself. I'm never going to be this young, this energetic, this free ever again. And so for me, the choice became clear. I could give up a pathway that I didn't like and that would always be there, or I could give up the only opportunity to live the life I want to live. And so if there's anything to take from this video, it's that you have everything to gain and nothing to lose. And with that, I want to leave you with one last thing. As Ryan Holiday says in his book, Courage is Calling, courage isn't about feeling a lack of fear. It's about taking action even if you feel fear. No matter how much you want to quit, no matter how convinced you get, trust me, you will still feel fear up until the second you quit. And so the only way to get what you want is to push your emotions to the side and take action anyway. Trust me, it might be the best thing you do in your life.